Hello, my name is Morikuni Ueda. We will now find out about sake tasting, which I will refer to as Kikishu. Japanese sake is much more sophisticated than a simple food item, and everyone has their own personal taste and preference. When drinking with friends, you might enjoy Japanese sake even more if you can describe and evaluate its taste in objective terms and share your impressions with others in the group. If you want to communicate the deliciousness of sake, you must first master sensory evaluation. In other words, you must learn how to do Kikishu. In the case of Japanese sake, sensory evaluation ability refers to the ability to describe the characteristics and flavors of various types of sake in commonly used terms, and to evaluate the quality of the sake. If you can use common terms to describe the tastiness of the sake, what aromas are good, what aromas are bad, and what other aspects are good, then you will be able to enjoy the subtleties of Japanese sake all the more. By learning certain technical terms, you will be able to enjoy a more eloquent form of Kikishu. The first important element in evaluating Japanese sake is aroma. Describing aroma should not pose too much of a difficulty. It is relatively easy to understand, and the aroma components are already known. So let's begin by talking about aroma. For Japanese sake to have a pleasing aroma, it must contain a good balance of alcohol and aroma components with the right concentrations. Also, the aroma must also complement the flavor. If the aroma components are excessive, then the balance expected of the Japanese sake will not be achieved. In such cases, the sake will not receive a good evaluation, even if the aroma is pleasing. The fruity aroma of ginjoshu is referred to with the generic term ginjoka or ginjoko, which literally means ginjo aroma. As for the types of aroma other than ginjoka, the generic term kichoka is used to refer to the common aroma that sake naturally has. So whether the kichoka is good or bad will be an evaluation criteria. Sake that has been stored for a long time will have a distinctive mature aroma, like the Chinese beverage laiju. Accordingly, it is evaluated in a separate category from regular sake. Esters are produced by the yeast as it ferments in the moromi. They have a major role on the aroma of the finished sake. They give Japanese sake its refreshing, cool, and clear quality. Ethyl acetate is an aroma component contained in many fruits. The content in the sake is between 20 and 120 ppm. The odor detection threshold is 24 ppm. Isomal acetate has a banana-like aroma, and only very small quantities are present in the commercial sake. The content of commercial sake is around 5 ppm. Isomal acetate has an odor detection threshold of only 0.27 ppm. In other words, it can be perceived by the sense of smell even if only a small amount is present. Ethyl copperate has an apple-like aroma. The content in sake is around 13 ppm. The odor detection threshold is 0.12 ppm. Ethyl caprylate has a pear-like aroma. The content in sake is around 1.7 ppm. Odor detection threshold is 0.2 ppm. Then there are aromatic alcohols. Japanese sake is an alcoholic beverage, so it goes without saying that it has an ethyl alcohol aroma. Aside from ethyl alcohol, sake also contains little amounts of various other aromatic alcohols. Let's look at a chart listing the main alcohols in sake and their respective content. Ethyl alcohol has an alcohol aroma. The content in Japanese sake is from 5% to 22%. The odor detection threshold is 1%. Ethyl alcohol can be detected at a content of 1% or more. Isomal alcohol has an alcohol aroma and a sweet fruit-like aroma. The content in sake is from 110 to 270 ppm. The odor detection threshold is between 50 and 70 ppm. Active amyl alcohol has an alcohol aroma and a sweet aroma. The volume in sake is 30 to 80 ppm, and the detection threshold is between 50 and 65 ppm. Phenethyl alcohol has a rosy aroma. The content in sake is 20 to 50 ppm, and the detection threshold is between 40 and 75 ppm. Now let's talk about tastes. The component that provides the sweetness is grape sugar. The components that provide the acidity are acids such as lactic acid and succinic acid, malic acid, and citric acids. One of the components that provides the umami, which means appetizing taste, and the bitterness is amino acid. Japanese sake has complex taste, determined by an individual's sense. Taste cannot be explained by sweetness, dryness, sourness, bitterness, astringency, and umami, or by analytical values. All you can do is give an overall evaluation using an appropriate combination of terms. The taste of sake have been plotted on a graph to make it easier to work out what words to use. I will show you this chart because it will help to explain many things. The vertical axis runs down from agreeable taste to zatsumi or disagreeable taste. The horizontal axis runs from light on the left to thick on the right. This graph can help you work out the thickness and pleasantness of sake. If you add a few terms like sweet, amai, dry, karai, sour, supai, bitter, nigai, astringent, shibui, or tasty, umai, and that's pretty much all you need to evaluate the taste. Zatsumi is a term only used in the context of Japanese sake. It basically means a complex taste involving disagreeable taste. On the other hand, if the sake has a clean, balanced taste, you can then use the term kirei. The taste between kirei and watery is kirei but watery. The taste between thick and kirei is thick and kirei. The taste between thick and zatsumi is thick but has zatsumi. The taste between watery and zatsumi is watery and has zatsumi. Kikishu must take place in a certain environment and under certain conditions. The room in which Kikishu takes place must be a north-facing room that does not let in direct sunlight. You can otherwise use a room where brightness can be adjusted to daytime colors. In addition, you must be able to ventilate the room with clean air and maintain a temperature of 20 degrees centigrade or so. The temperature of the tasting samples must be determined, as must be the type of vessels used. The temperature of the tasting samples must be between 15 and 20 degrees centigrade. The temperature should be around 45 degrees centigrade in the case of tasting warm sake samples. If the sake being tasted is supposed to be served at a certain temperature, then this temperature is sometimes set for the Kikishu. The condition of your body matters too. If you have a cold or a fever, then you won't be able to judge aroma and taste. Furthermore, if you are wearing heavily scented lipstick or perfume, then this will hamper the evaluation. Everyone drinks from the same glass. If you leave lipstick traces on the glass, this will make it harder for the next person to evaluate the sample. Another thing you must not do during Kikishu is to say things that could disturb other tasters. For example, if you said something like, "This sake is really good, don't you think?" then the next person may become confused and hesitate to give a bad evaluation. There should be no private conversations during Kikishu. The materials and sizes of vessels must be the same. Otherwise, the way the aromas are brought out will vary, making it impossible to conduct a proper Kikishu. Tasters therefore use a special sake vessel called kikichoko, with 2 concentric cobalt blue circles on the inside bottom. The use of blue and white make it much easier to detect turbidity and color differences. Kikichoko are usually used for Kikishu. They have the same colors, size, and shape. In blind tasting, where the color of the sake is masked, amber-brown blind tasting glasses are used. These glasses can be used to ventilate the sake without being influenced by its color. Colorlessness and clarity have been considered desirable properties of sake since ancient times. The reason for this is that many colored sakes are poor in quality with many off flavors. The sake is typically evaluated by either a score system or a profile system. Sometimes a combination of the two is used. Other methods include the rating method, or classifying the sample, the descriptive method, the matching method, and the ranking method. So what do you actually do during Kikishu? First of all, you observe the appearance, including the color and clarity. The ratings used include dull, clear, or brown. If there is no turbidity, you check to see whether it has luster and good clarity. If there is turbidity, you check to see whether the turbidity is slight or considerable. After the visual observation, you evaluate the aroma sensed when your nose gets close to the kikichoko. The next step is to take some sake into the mouth and evaluate the fukumika, which means the retronasal aroma, the aroma that reaches the nose via the mouth, as well as the taste. Take an appropriate amount of sake into your mouth, spreading it all around the tongue. Breathe out the air through the nose and evaluate the fukumika sensed at the time. Different parts of the tongue are more sensitive to certain tastes. If you don't spread the sake all around the tongue, your evaluation will be off. The taste buds for sweetness are in the tip of the tongue. For saltiness are in a bit deeper area of the tongue, and the sour taste buds are behind this. Bitter and umami taste buds are to the back of the center. For this reason, you cannot sense the taste correctly unless you spread the sake all over the top of the tongue. The amount of sake you take into your mouth will be around 5 milliliters. If you take different amounts of sake into your mouth, the taste will vary accordingly. If you slurp the sake for too long, your mouth will produce saliva, which will dilute the sake. Therefore, you shouldn't take any longer than 10 seconds to determine the taste. I hope that this has given you some idea about Kikishu. You can feel free to describe and evaluate the quality of the sake in your own words. However, if you also know a few technical terms that are commonly understood among sake tasters, then you can communicate your impressions with others more effectively and experience a more interesting and more amusing Kikishu.